Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening, and hello. Mark S. here again with another special episode of Masterpieces of Religious Verse. We're talking about Ephrem the Syrian, the great 4th century Christian poet. Some say he is the greatest poet of all time. I have not heard every poet of all time, and I do not know the criteria by which one can be declared such a thing. However, I've read a little bit of poetry and he's up there. I'm confident enough to say that he has that great factor going for him. I'm going to read a little bit today. Check my audio here. Make sure we got everything. I think it'll be working. Anyone is free to come on and join. I'm going to read a couple verses of his Nisabine hymns. A couple verses that I was reading the other day, and they really struck me. Can somebody tell me, how do I turn off the... Here it is. I want to turn off cancellation. There we go. Very good. I've got this pulled up from this website, newadvent.org. I'm going to check and see if this is this. I have a free Kindle version of the complete works of Ephrem the Syrian on my phone. I'm going to see if this is the same translation. Let's see. No, it looks like the one I'm reading on this website is a different translation. I think the one I have is older because it still has the older English thy, thee, thou. But what I'll do, I'm going to read from my Kindle version. I don't know who the translators were. I could find that out if you're curious. But so I'm going to read from an older translation, and I'm going to have this one up here from this newer translation. And so these are the Nisabine hymns. Nisibis is a place, I looked it up. It's way up in northeastern Syria, and it's like on the border of Turkey. And I can't really tell if it's in Turkey or Syria, because it says it's a province of Turkey, but it's in or something. I don't know how. Anyway, I'm going to read a couple verses from hymn number 17 from the Nisabine hymns. I'm going to read a couple verses, and then I'm going to skip to the end of this to the end of this hymn. This is concerning Abraham, bishop of Nisibis. So this was Ephrem's bishop that just died. And so Ephrem wrote these poems about his bishop that died. Hymn number 17, the Nisabine hymns, verse 1. Suffer, O Lord, that even my lowliness should cast into thy treasury its farthing, even as the merchant of our flock, who made increase of his talent of thy doctrine, and has departed and entered thy haven. I will speak of the shepherd under him who has become head of the flock, who was disciple of the three, and has become the fourth master. Blessed be he who has made him our comfort. Verse 2. In one love will I cause them to shine, and as a crown will I weave them, the splendid blossoms, and the fragrant flowers of the teacher and of his disciple who remained after him as Elisha, for the horn of his election, and he was consecrated and became head, and he was exalted and became master, are, blessed be he who made him chief. 3. And they in heaven rejoiced for the flock, that by the pastor whom they fed, they feed it. And abode of the shepherds under him rejoiced, because they saw the succession of their degrees. He took and set him as a mind in the midst of the great body of the church, and his members came round to buy of him life, doctrine, and new bread. R. Blessed be he who made him their treasury. Now I'm going to skip to the end of this hymn, to the last verse, and I'm going to show you this is verse 12. He says, I too, the offscouring. Well, let me go down here to verse 12. I haven't been watching this to see how much different. Actually, this isn't that much different. They just took out the these and thous, and I think it's kind of the same translation. Anyway, okay, verse 12. I too, the offscouring of the flock, have not withholden aught that was meet. I have painted the similitude of these two, in the colors of these two, that the sheep may see their adornment, and the flock their beauties. And I, who have become a lamb endowed with speech, unto thee, O God of Abraham, in the posture of Abram, will I give thee praise. Blessed be he who has made me his harp. I'm not going to spend too much time here tonight. I actually probably should have read the entire chapter 17. I'm sorry. It's really good. When I read it, I read it slow so I could sort of understand it. And this last one thing I will note, I do note about this. Now, I don't know too much about church history. I don't know too much about Ephrem or the Syriac tradition, which is neither Greek Orthodox nor Roman Catholic. It's another thing. In fact, I think the Rome and Greeks and the Syriacs or the Orientals all claim Ephrem, but I think now the Syriac church would be in the Oriental. But however, this was before all that. This was before any of those things happened, splits. So everybody claims Ephrem. And to me, it's neither of like the Neoplatonism of like, the the Alexandrians, or like the more fundamentalists, like the Antiochites. This is like a whole different thing. However, one thing I will note is that most of these poems they mostly concern Christ, the Trinity, and everything. And it's mostly about his church, but this one is about a person. So most of these were hymns, and he's writing a hymn about a person. However, what I will note about this hymn about this person, he never talks to the person, as far as I remember. He talks about him. He talks to God about how grateful he was for this person. I'm just saying, it's just an observation. There might be other poems where he does talk to dead people, but I think it's interesting. And to return, if we look at every line, anybody come in and talk to me if you want. I'll be on here for a little bit. Let's look at verse 7. Verse 7. May thy doctrine abound in deeds more than words, in saying a few words, till thou our land with labor, that by much tillage the scanty seed may become rich. The increase of the old seed may come among us 30-fold, and thy new seed 60-fold. Blessed be he who multiplies the hundredfold. Hold on a second. Let's go back to, I'm going to read verse 4. You'll get what I'm saying. If you have any questions, Google it. Verse 4, he chose from him the multitude of shepherds, because he had given trial of his steadfastness. The time tested him in the midst of the flock, and the length of days proved him as a crucible, for that he gave proof in his person. He made him a wall for many. Let thy fasting be armor in our country, thy prayer a shield to our city. Let thy censer purchase reconcilement. Blessed be he who has hallowed thy sacrifices. Actually, maybe I can't tell right here if he is actually talking to his bishop. But anyway, every single line of this, he basically talks about how much he appreciated this dead bishop, Abraham, the bishop of Nisibis. And then the R, it says, it's like in verse 4, R, blessed be he who has hallowed your sacrifices. So it's interesting in this poem, he talks about his bishop who was a human, and then at the refrain, he always blesses God. At the end, it's always, but glory be to God. And the most interesting verse of all of this hymn is verse 12, which I will read again, which I already did. Sorry, I'm just scattered. But just bear with me. This is interesting. Verse 12, he says, I too, the offscouring of the flock, have not withholden aught that was meet. I have painted the similitude of these two in the colors of these two, that the sheep may see their adornment, and the flock of their beauties. And I, who have become a lamb endowed with speech, unto thee, O God of Abraham, in the posture of Abram, will I give thee praise. R, I'm guessing R stands for refrain. R, blessed be he who has made me his harp. Now that is straight fire. That is, that's some bars, as the kids would say, because Ephrem is so he talks about his bishop, and now he ends talking about himself. The last verse is talking about himself. And what does he say? He says, and I, who have become a lamb endowed with speech, unto thee, O God of Abraham, in the posture of Abram will I give thee praise. Blessed be he who has made me his heart. It's almost, it's not a humble brag. He's basically saying, like, you have blessed me with bars. You have made me a sweet talker and a great poet, and blessed be he who has made me his harp. And it's God's gift to him that made him maybe the greatest Christian poet of all time. I don't know. I wouldn't say he wasn't, but there's just so much going on. It's a fractal complex of beautiful thoughts. And anyway, I don't know. A lot of the time, if you listen to like the poem Taliesin, the poet Taliesin, sometimes it was almost like he was in these rap battles where he was just talking about how great of a poet he is. Or, there are all these diss tracks with rappers where they're trying to outdo each other. And so Ephrem acknowledges his talents, but gives the glory to God like a true poet. So I'm gonna keep reading Ephrem, not online tonight. I'm just gonna keep reading him. I'll come on here every now and then. If anybody wants to come on and talk a little bit about whatever you would like, that would be good. Otherwise, I've got 4 viewers. I might quit while I'm ahead. Big show, big ratings. I hope on this Sunday evening, I don't have Sunday night blues. I'm chilling. We're going to make it. We're going to get through. There's going to be struggles. But there's going to be a lot of laughs. And as long as we don't have a toothache, we can be grateful for good health. So I hope you're all just rested up as you can be. And pray for me. I'll say a general prayer for the viewers after this stream, and good night.